Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of Leaders Who Last, where we explore burnout in 2025 and in this crazy time of our world and how we're all existing and trying to thrive during this crazy time. I'm so excited that you're here with us. I'm Elena Joy. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the CEO of Latitude. We are an HR consulting company that is focused on building inclusive and sustainable leadership pipelines. We do that through burnout prevention and emerging leadership work. And so right now we're really focused on burnout prevention because let's be real, that is what we're all struggling with right now. And when I say burnout, let's expand that word because it can mean whatever we want it to mean. And the fact is the burnout we're experiencing right now is not the same as we did in 2020. It's not the same as we experienced in college. Burnout is different. There's a lot of intricacy to it. And our guest today is a huge part of helping us explore those differences and really get to the bottom of some really cool stuff. I'm just so excited about what we're going to do today. Okay, so just let me introduce my friend, Aarti Samani. She is a global expert on AI-enabled deepfake technology and how to prevent it. And there's this beautiful crossover. I'm just going to give you context, and then we're just going to let Aarti loose because this is going to be an amazing conversation. The context is posted on LinkedIn that there was this question that they were asked that HR people were asking in interviews to make sure the person they were talking to was a human, because deepfakes can show up in these interview calls and the recruiter might not even know. So they needed ways to be able to prove the humanity of the person on the other end of the line. And I'll put the link to an article that we wrote about it. So fun. But here's the thing. I realized, and especially because a comment on Artie's post, I think it was Aaron Broadberg, pointed out that it's the quirkiness, it's the weirdness, it's the authenticity that is helping to prove that we're humans. So then I wrote this article about how, oh my gosh, I'm all about authenticity as a burnout prevention strategy because the less we perform leadership, but actually be a leader, the longer we're going to last. We're not wasting all that energy. Anyone who's from a marginalized community, who's been the only one in the room, knows how much energy it takes to perform as the room expects versus showing up as your full self and doing the dang work. So obviously burnout prevention, but now I'm realizing also not only executive leadership prevention, burnout prevention, and culture deepening and improvement, but also deep fake fraud prevention. Aarti, please share with us everything.
Eleanor, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this event. I'm so pleased that you recognize the message that I've been trying to put out there for a long time. And I have this platform to really tell people that actually there is now a direct correlation between authentic leadership and your organization's risk exposure. And this is what we're going to talk about. I hope I will be able to shed some light on it and a very different perspective, because leaders are so busy trying to run the organizations and keep the lights on, keep the shareholder interest at heart, everything, that they are the most naive group when it comes to impersonation fraud. They don't understand that they are actually victims of likeness theft, and therefore they become inadvertently a gateway to defrauding their organizations by bad actors who thrive on executing deepfake fraud.
And when you were talking about this earlier, I was like, I don't know that a ton of my audience and even me really understand what deepfake is. And Arnie was like, you want me to show you? I was like, right now, right here? Okay, so pretend that Arnie is my boss and I have showed up to a Zoom call expecting my boss to give me some critical information about completing a project, maybe. And Arnie's shown, what does the deepfake look like?
So what you're looking on screen is a live deepfake. Basically, the face that you're seeing on screen does not belong to Aarti Samani. So Elena thinks she's speaking to this individual called Aarti Samani, but when the face is very different. So if this face belonged to your executive or even to your client, Elena, you think you're joining the call. And if I change the name to Joe Blogs, for example, you'd think you're speaking to Joe Blogs, who carries this face, and you're having a perfectly normal conversation. Well, the person behind the screen is not the same face as the person on the screen. So in this case, Aarti Samani is the fraudster who is pretending to be Joe Bloggs, the client or the executive leader that Elena thinks she's talking to. Now, this is perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal in the context of deepfake. We are living in this environment, which is totally crazy. So last year, a British company called Uru had lost $25 million to a fraud like this, where their CFO and a lot of their senior executive team showed up on a live Zoom call and instructed a financial controller in the team to make a fund transfer of $25 million. The individual thought that he saw his colleagues, his senior team, and he went and executed on the instructions. Every single face on that Zoom call was a deep fake, except the victim, which was the financial controller. So the technology that I'm showing you right now is very similar to the technology that was used in the fraud last year. I'll come back to my true self, so I'm not freaking up.
Thank you. This is much bigger.
So if I take a kind of step back and really explain what we mean by these terms, right? A lot of our audiences may not know what we are talking about when I say deepfake fraud. So I just want to say, like, when deception as a service is a real business model right now, I'm not making this up. We have software as a service, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we now have crime as a service and deception as a service as real business model. And it is impossible for us to tell the real and the fake apart, as we've just seen on the screen, right? So in this scenario, authenticity is a real line of defense, which is why, Elena, you and I connected and we're having this conversation. When someone with bad intentions will take a piece of media about you, and a piece of media can be a clip of your voice, they may have heard you on a podcast. It could be a short segment of a video. We tend to have videos of ourselves online quite a lot these days, or even a single still image, like your LinkedIn profile picture, for example. They might take this media and manipulate it somehow in a way that they make this media say or behave in a manner that you never would. You never said it. You never behaved in this way. But the media would have people think that this is really Elena and she said this thing, which is so bad, or she gave me these instructions, or she behaved in this way, which I didn't expect from her. It is designed to manipulate trust. And over time, people lose trust in this individual, or they don't know what is real and what is authentic and what is fake. So it sounds like you, it looks like you, it is very believable, but it is not you. Someone else behind the scene is almost a puppeteer controlling what you say and how you behave. And this is what we call deepfake fraud or deepfake media. And when this deepfake gives instructions, reset my password, or give me this piece of information because I'm on the go and I need it right now, or click on this link to accept your bonus that I have just awarded you, or in the case of Hong Kong, transfer $25 million. Now your team will go ahead and execute it because they believe it's coming from you because it sounds and looks like you. So it is and all of this is done with information that is available in the public domain. So it's really important, A, that we understand what this attack vector is, which is very real, present, and accelerating. But if I may, Elena, I want to talk about the facets of identity that we have as individuals and as executives.
Absolutely, because I think that definitely is where it goes. Because when you first said that, okay, here's the risk that's out there. This is what is happening. And it can happen from your profile picture on LinkedIn. When you first said that, I'm not going to lie. Like, I had this, like, gut punch. Holy crap, nothing is safe. I'm all over online. Anyone could get so much data from me. And then to think, okay, but the fact is, I'm not going to change what I'm doing or who I am because there's a threat out there. Like, that is a lesson that a queer person learned a long time ago. So therefore, what can I do? And it seems to me like the answer is be wildly authentic in all of my communications so that there's a constant through line, and that if someone starts to question or doubt that there's communication from me, there's more evidence that it might not be me because I've never performed for them. I've always been. So is that kind of where you think it's going? Is more about leadership branding almost?
Yes, absolutely. So there are multiple aspects to this, right? So there are steps that employees need to take, and they need to be trained in what those steps are, which is why we do these awareness programs, etc. And there are steps that executives need to take in order to firstly create a recognizable executive brand identity, protect that executive brand identity, and then also understand, in the event that it has been manipulated, what are the remedial measures. So when I talk about an executive brand identity, what I mean is we have multiple facets, right? Where when the way I show up as a business leader on an earnings call with an analyst is absolutely not the way I show up when I'm addressing my team in my all hands meeting. We are very different. I am more authentic in my all hands meeting than I am with the analyst, because that is a very transactional conversation, whereas with my staff it is not a transactional conversation. It is more genuine, it is more authentic. The way I interview with a journalist in public domain is very different to the way I address my staff at the end of the year holiday video that I send out, right, as part of my best wishes card. So we have multiple facets in how we show up as leaders, in what our brand identity looks like. And internally, with our teams, the more we show up as authentic leaders, and authentic leaders, our internal brand, often authentic leader, is constitutes our personality, our experiences, our leadership style, our values, but also our shortcomings. And a lot of times leaders are so busy trying to be perfect leaders that they don't want to demonstrate their shortcomings. And actually, the point you made earlier, it is these shortcomings, these quirks, these deficiencies that we have in our personalities are what create a distinct identity of us, which can be not replicated, or it can be very difficult to be impersonated, right? And I call that a watermark of trust. So, what is the watermark of trust in a human being, in an executive leader who would otherwise be impersonated? It's a combination of your, like I said, your values, your shortcomings, your personality, your experiences, your leadership style. Because remember, voices can be cloned, but values cannot be altered by AI. So that's what we are dealing with. So that's why this conversation is so important. That authenticity and showing up as an authentic leader time and time again. So you are reinforcing that watermark of trust to the people whom you want to trust you.
Oh, wow. I love that so much because a key part of the Latitude program is around core values. It's actually one of the very first things that our leaders do is make sure they really are connected with their core values, because their core values is the basis of everything about burnout prevention, really, and everything about a leadership legacy. And that often takes us then into the organization's core values and making sure that their culture is one of authenticity and psychological safety. Because when we have that level of psychological safety, not only are there so many positive financial outcomes to that, but it's also, turns out, is a fraud prevention strategy to have that high level of psychological safety. Can you speak a little bit to what is it within a culture that will help prevent that deepfake fraud?
Yeah, absolutely. When you are an authentic leader, you are giving your team permission to be human, right? Because you're not pretending, you're being human, and therefore you're giving permission to be human. And this is powerful, right? This is powerful.
Yes.
For it's a powerful antidote for fatigue, but also for fraud. Now, let me explain. It seems weird that what has this got to do with fraud? But deepfake fraud is a form of human manipulation, right? These kind of fraudsters thrive in environments where people are afraid to speak up. They're afraid to question the authority, or when they experience uncertainty in a work environment. Because these kind of situations put us in a heightened state of emotion, And when we are in that heightened state of emotion, we lose the ability to apply context, to apply critical thinking to the environment around us. And therefore, we lose our ability to pick up on signs of coercion and manipulation. Now, this is why deepfake fraud is very successful, because a lot of people don't know about it. They are not trained on it. Executives don't know about it. But our work culture is always on. We are always worrying about questioning authority, questioning leadership, especially when we are in an economically shrinking environment, right? There's geopolitical tension, there's economic uncertainty, there's news of layoffs everywhere. None of this is very helpful in reducing deepfake or human manipulation fraud. So it's kind of that psychological safety, that authenticity, that permission to show up as a human is the thing that reduces the attack surface. When people cannot recognize the truth signals, when they cannot question the fakes, then your attack surface is higher. And when we are in the heightened state of emotion, we lose that ability. And therefore, we, the employees, become gateways for bad actors to target us, to manipulate us. So basically, what I'm saying is that your business culture and your organization's risk exposure almost directly correlated. And your culture is directly tied to how authentic you are as a leader and how much permission you give your team, therefore, to be authentic. And if they're authentic, if they're not tired and burnt out, they're aware, they're deploying critical thinking, they're deploying contextual awareness, and therefore chipping away the attack surface to human manipulation fraud.
Yeah. It just really expanded my mind and really thinking about how culture directly correlates. I love how you said attack surface. Like it really shows like where's the vulnerability, and the bigger the surface, the more vulnerability there is. And that is directly correlated to how exhausted your employees are, how trained and educated your employees and leaders are, and how safe the culture is, which is determined by the authenticity and psychological safety of the leaders of the organization. It's not determined by the HR or the ERGs. Okay. Let's just make that real clear right now. So I've never done this with a guest before, but I really feel the need to with you, Arby. Please help us understand. This is such a new field. I'm sure we have leaders on this call that this is really their first time connecting these dots. If someone wanted to take the next step, what does that look like with you? And please share both like the corporate setting, but also a lot of my clients are businesses that have 50 to 100 employees. They're locally owned. They're very successful, very successful. So to me, they are at risk. So please share if a leader from a corporation contacted you and a leader of a small business contacted you, how would that work?
Absolutely. So I work with businesses of all sizes because I've seen a two people business targeted by deepfake fraud. And I'll give an example of what that looks like. And I've seen a listed business targeted by this. And I already talked about the Hong Kong case earlier. But the way I work, I offer multiple services. The standard one is employee awareness, because once you have seen and experienced a deepfake fraud, you can't unsee it. Now that you and I have done this in real time, every digital interaction you will treat with a little more caution and curiosity. So the baseline is, okay, let's all talk about it. It's normal to talk about human manipulation, fraud, and train our employees. The other layer, which is parallel to this, is let's train our executives, because, like I said, they're a naive group of people when it comes to awareness of this particular thing. And that training looks a little different. It's more in a closed room environment where they feel safe exposing their ignorance about this, perhaps, or asking questions without feeling exposed, right? So we want to talk about executives in a different format. And there we talk about authenticity, culture, how your business culture, what does your business culture look like? And is it actually what you think it is? And how your employees perceive it to be? Because executives and employees are two different minds. One thinks they have a great culture, the other one may not perceive it to be. So we work on that. And I work with the human resources team as well to put some of these things in place. So we do a vulnerability assessment, we do a risk assessment based on what you tell me, and then where are the gaps and how do we fill it. So there is a whole spectrum of that training piece across different teams, but also different layers within the organization. There is the piece around what does a safe culture look like in the context of risk exposure. That's the second piece. And then we do simulations. So we simulate a deepfake attack to test your processes and your people's response. Because it's one thing having processes in place, right? Like the Hong Kong case, they must have had approval processes in place where you're not just authorizing one individual to transfer such a large sum of money, but somewhere that process fell through when it came directly from the chief financial officer of the organization. So when we create these simulated attacks, then you really stress test your processes and your people's response. So you can work with me in any of these ways, either employee training, executive training, culture and risk assessment, and simulated attacks to then get a report on where the gaps are.
Simulated attack sounds so exciting and so scary at the same time. I love it. Thank you so much, Artie. We're going to wrap up this interview with the same question we ask every single time. Here at Latitude, we consider pursuing joy a burnout prevention strategy, not just an outcome. So we always like to ask, what are we doing to pursue joy these days? And for me, my answer this week is I had a beloved nephew graduate yesterday, which meant that I needed to interact with my mom, who I'd been in no contact with since I came out. And it went really well. It went really well. And I'm so happy because it means a whole lot of healing has happened. And then just there's so much joy right there. Please, Arnie, what are you doing to pursue joy these days?
Firstly, congratulations. I feel so happy listening to this today, Elena. I'm very happy for you because your relationships with your family are the most precious. And if they are going through a difficult phase for whatever reason, that somewhere inside you that hurts. So I'm really pleased for you that you've been able to cross that bump. So well done. For me, my anchor in life is meditation. I have a meditation practice which I follow diligently, regularly. So that brings me a lot of joy. The two bookends to my day, and I look forward to them. But also, I'm loving the work I do because I feel the impact of it. Like when this kind of conversation makes me happy because whoever is listening to this will now be that little bit safer, that little bit secure, and they will feel empowered to show up as their authentic self because there is a real reward in that. And we only touched on the business aspect of this, but there's a whole personal aspect of this when people are scammed in their personal lives powered by deepfake fraud, right? So I feel joyful when we are having these kind of conversations, when my work is showcased and I'm able to make a difference in people's life.
Huge difference, huge difference. And I would see that from the very minute that we met in some random Zoom call somewhere. Once I heard what you were teaching about, I knew how valuable it was and how much the world needed to hear it because no one else is really talking about it the way you are. And I think our comment right here from one of our audience members really sums it up. This has been incredibly insightful and incredibly important for all of us to know. And I fully agree. Thank you so much, Artie. I appreciate you. And the audience, thank you so much for being here. Please join us next week. We're going to have an incredible conversation with Terry Flores, an HR employment lawyer. She's just such a badass here in Arizona. So excited to introduce you to her. And thank you for joining us today. Be good to yourselves, fam. I appreciate you.
Thank you all. I'm really pleased you joined us today. I hope I have been able to add value to you. And thank you, Elena, for bringing this topic to light.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.